David. Let's go ahead and start off by how you know Cheryl, and then your own experience with your own son.
Oh, I know Cheryl from the fire department. We worked together about 10 years before she was injured and had to quit. And then we went through the academy together, which is always kind of an interesting experience. You never forget the people you go through academy with. And then about a year and a half ago, my son was taking care of his mom who had cancer. And he was drinking pretty heavily at the time. And one day came home and got into her Oxycontin drugs that she was prescribed for her pain medications, and overdosed on them. Lay down on the couch, plugged in a movie to watch it, and went to sleep and never woke up. So the police think it was an accident. They don't think it was an intentional overdose, because he had actually plugged in a movie, and that was his habit, was to watch a movie and go to sleep watching the movie. So it may have been his first experience with drugs, other than alcohol, of course. I don't know for certain. But there were 8 pills missing from the bottle, and I mean, if you're very, very drunk, I suppose you could. I've heard of it happening that way, that you make that mistake. You think you're taking an okay dose, but to mix those morphine, not morphine, but opiate derivatives drugs with alcohol is very, very dangerous. Suppresses the sleep centers of the brain, and kids apparently just don't get it. It's a huge problem in New Mexico. I was reading an article recently in the newspaper, and they're really looking. The medical establishment, is looking very closely at regulating more closely the opiate derivative drugs, because there's so many overdoses now. I can't remember the exact statistics, but it's something like, used to be car accidents killed more teenagers than anything else, and now they're saying, whoa, wait a minute, these drugs are killing more teenagers. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's getting up there.
Mm-hmm. And the passing of your son, how did that affect your family? And, your wife was going through treatment at that time.
Well, of course, you don't know what this, the death of a child is going to do to you. And I mean, I'm speaking generally. I didn't know it was going to happen to me. Nobody does that I've ever read about or heard about. And I've gone to several support groups since then and found out a lot more about it. Read a lot of books on the whole subject of grief. And she actually was dying. She lived 3 more days after he died, and then she passed away. So as far as it affecting her, she probably never got out of the shock state. A lot of weird things can happen in the shock state, especially the first 3 days. People stop moving sometimes. They just lay on the bed and stare. And sometimes people just do bizarre things that, it's like it didn't happen, it's coming to grips with it, and people will be in denial about it happening, and some people will even think it's okay. And so as far as my ex-wife was concerned, she probably never made it out of the shock state. I mean, she was in and out herself. She was on morphine herself and in a lot of pain. So I made it through the shock state and went on. And for me, that was pretty heavy duty, is suffering those 2 deaths that close together. But the thing that has struck me since was the cultural perception of grief and death and dying, especially having a child die and being a parent, that a lot of people, most of the culture it seems, are under the impression that you're going to get over this in 6 weeks and then things are going to get to normal. It's like losing your 89-year-old grandmother. And you'll be a little sad after that. But after 6 months, I started looking at myself and I said, I'm not really getting any better at all. And even though I've gone back to work and I'm suppressing things and trying to act normal, it's coming out at night. It's coming out in nightmares and weird ones. And it's also coming out in anxiety attacks. I know some people call them panic attacks. I didn't really feel panicked because of my job. I see people panic, but anxiety attacks, panic attacks, whatever you want to call it, just out of nowhere, uncontrollable, out of the blue, and just heart palpitations, getting upset at just anything, any little thing, just dropping something, or the refrigerator door doesn't open right, just little things, and just totally losing it. So I started getting all these symptoms, and I said, maybe I better take a look at this. And people deal with it in different ways. Some people deal with it by seeing a counselor. Some people deal with it by going to support groups. It's kind of like addictions, in a way. And some people deal with it by reading books, and the support groups and reading books were good with me. I mean, the counselor that I went to see, I don't think was very well trained in grief. I don't blame the counselor for not being able to help much, but it's really a specialty, apparently, in dealing with it. But the whole cultural perception of, it's been 6 weeks or 6 months, why is this still bugging you? People don't get it. They don't get it. I didn't get it. And people don't know what to do. That's another thing. People don't know what to do with grief. There's all kinds of reactions. It's very common among the people who have suffered a loss to lose most of your friends, or feel like it, because they don't know what to say. And they are afraid they're going to say something that's going to dredge up the grief and cause you anxiety. And so they don't say. Sometimes they disappear. I mean, I've heard of people walking down the street and their good friends cross to the other side because they just don't want to encounter them, which is very difficult on people who are going through grief. But at the same time, there's not much you can say to them. It's something I've learned from books and from hearing other people talk in the groups, is if somebody's going through grief, it's just being there is enough. You don't have to say anything. I mean, if you're going to say anything, especially in the shock state right after it happens, there's typically a lot of support. People bring meals and stuff, and then the support quits after maybe 6 weeks max. Usually it's 2 or 3 weeks. But that's when the shock wears off and the pain starts hitting, and it gets really difficult with people. And it's not what you say particularly, it's just being there and being available. And letting them talk, whatever they want to say. If they want to speak, if they want to be silent, that's fine. If they want, a lot of parents, I think Charles is this way, they want validation about that their child was somebody who needs to be remembered and was special and had significance in the world. And they want to hear that sort of thing. And sometimes people will get angry, but they might get angry at the person that's trying to comfort them. And it's very easy. It's a real thing that people don't want to cause any more anxiety for the grieving parent, because it's very easy to say stuff that will cause anxiety. The question, how did your son die, doesn't bother me. If I've heard Cheryl say that if the wrong person asks her that, it's like she's hurt by that. So it varies a lot, but it's really not an excuse for friends and family to start avoiding the grieving person. And it's pretty important to realize that they're going through a lot of intense pain for a long time. It's been 1.5 years for me. Some people get stuck in their grief, they never get out of it, and, well, it takes years and years perhaps. Some people never do. There's a typical pattern with, I don't know what percentage of people, but more or less, the first year is up and down. The first anniversary date can be just as painful as the day of finding out that your child has died. And then the second year, there's a slow decline to adjustment. You never really get over it, you adjust, is what I've heard. And I seem to be following that pattern. I'm 1.5 years in, but the first year, the pain is just constant. It's amazing to me that it's really difficult to go 5 minutes without thinking about it. And, to put on the...
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
We'll come back to that. Let's go and take a break and cool off. It's really
All right.
warm in here. So, in your experience of the past 1.5 years, you spoke about friends and family members not knowing what to say, so they don't say anything at all, or becoming distant because of fear of possibly provoking something.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that in your experience?
I have. Basically, I knew pretty much from the beginning what was going on with them. I can't say that. The first 6 months, I didn't know what was going on, really. But after I educated myself, from the beginning of educating myself, I realized what was going on. A lot of it. Not knowing what to say is understandable to me. There's another part of it that it's hard to identify, that I can't say for sure I've seen or not seen in people, but I suspect, and I've read about it in books, that some people will avoid the grieving person because they have this conscious or subconscious belief that the person did something to deserve this, or that their bad luck is going to rub off. And it's especially insidious, I guess, when it's unconscious. Somebody avoiding a grieving parent because it's some sort of taboo, or they feel like they're tainted in some way. Mm-hmm. So that I don't understand. I don't understand why it would be conscious or subconscious, but that is something I would personally try to avoid dealing with anybody else. As soon as I heard that Cheryl had suffered a loss pretty much the same as mine, her son, mixed alcohol and something. I think it was Oxycontin, but there's 4 or 5 derivatives of that particular drug class. So I knew that she was going to be in shock and she was going to have a lot of help for about 3 weeks. And I waited for 3 weeks, and sure enough, when I made contact with her, pretty much everybody had dissipated for the most part. It's hard for people to keep that up. I had neighbors that were very, very kind to me and brought me meals the first 3 weeks, but I wouldn't have expected that to go on and on and on. But there is that emotional support that people need, and the place I found it was in groups. That doesn't work for everybody. I have noticed that I can talk about this subject in a group or one-to-one with other people, and they just don't get it. And sometimes the interpretation is this person is just seeking pity, and that's really a rare thing, that they're seeking pity. They don't want pity, but there's something about talking about it every time that somebody from my perspective who benefits from this approach, every time that I talk about it, it's healing, it helps. I feel better. And the only people that really understand what's going on is the other people that attend the groups and have lost someone. So it seems kind of weird. It's like, why do I want to be around all these miserable, sad people? But there's a lot of healing that goes on in the groups when it works. Some people avoid them like the plague, and for other people it's just a lifesaver. And that's not speaking figuratively, I mean a lifesaver.
Did you find that people got the wrong impression of your son after his accident?
Nobody said anything. I don't know what people are thinking. It couldn't be too much worse than what I'm thinking about him. I suppose I knew him well enough. In my perspective, he was basically a good kid that got into the wrong kind of habits as far as drinking alcohol. I don't know about the drug use. I don't know if he'd taken drugs before. In this day and age, it's highly possible. But he may have been taking those drugs, the particular drugs out of the particular bottle for a week or 2 weeks. I think he had called me like 3 weeks before and told me he was picking up these class 2 narcotics for his mom from the pharmacy. He may have taken them gradually, he may have taken all 8 at once. I don't know. I didn't see the autopsy report because a friend of mine who was a registered nurse said it wouldn't do me any good to look at the autopsy report. So I don't know how much of that was in his system, but if he actually did take 8 at a time, that was... you either have no idea what you're doing or it's an intentional. And the police said it's extraordinarily rare for somebody to intentionally overdose and then plug in a movie and watch it. So I'm just going to assume... I'm not even sure I'm assuming. I'm fine with somebody committing suicide. I'm maybe not fine with it, but I understand that people get so down that they commit suicide in a moment of weakness when they feel like they're worthless. And I understand that a lot better now because I've just been through it for a year and a half. It's like I think about suicide a lot. And I've read what the warning signs are and who's actually moving that direction. And I'm not in that category, but I just think about it a lot because for me, I guess I have to speak from my own perspective here because this is my only child, and it's different a little bit when you have more children and you have them to live for and you've got a spouse and something, but to lose both of them was half my life, at least. As far as money spent, time spent, it feels like half my life just kind of went down the drain. Everybody tells me, oh, well, his life was significant. He died at age 26, and we really cherished the time we had with him and stuff. And yeah, I hear that, and I sort of, kind of wonder if I agree with that, but I'm never going to have any grandchildren. I don't have any more family. I'm probably not going to start another one. I'm probably not going to meet another woman who's young enough to want to start another family. So there's a big chunk of my life that's gone. And the whole suicide thing is just a reflection of, right now, I don't understand why I'm here. It doesn't make any sense emotionally. Logically, I get it, because I come from a life perspective of I believe in God and a God who has a specific plan for each human. I don't know how atheists deal with this. know how people who are extraordinarily angry at God or agnostic deal with it, but for me, that's pretty much is what has carried me through. Is just believing there's a reason that I'm here. I don't understand it emotionally. I don't get it. But getting back to the suicide thing, if my son did commit suicide, I'm not angry at him for that. I'm disappointed that he went down the path of drugs and alcohol, especially alcohol, because I was aware of that, and he was still in the denial stage, and was saying he didn't have a problem, or that he can control it, and things like that. And that's just, the people you associate with and the choices you make as a young person. A lot of people, I made those choices. I was 18 when I started drinking, and I probably drank till I was 30-something and quit. And I don't think I drank as heavily as him, but I guess that's getting off the subject. I don't know how that particularly relates, but as far as being upset with him for indulging in alcohol, I was disappointed, I guess is the way to describe it. I just didn't know what else to say, what else to do. And, I was relying a lot on his mother because she was a counselor, and he was had a very close relationship with her too, so I figured if she didn't know what to do, I didn't know what to do else. I was willing to try anything, but what can you say? I grew up listening to ex-drug addicts, programs, TV commercials, whatever, health classes in high school. The message is out there, and it has continued through this day. And why human beings don't want to listen to that, why some people think, well, a lot of people, maybe most people think they're invulnerable. It's not going to happen to me. Either the kid or the parent, My kid's not bad. It's not going to happen to him. He's not that bad. Or I'm going to be lucky. Or these kind of things only happen to other people. And I felt invulnerable until I was about 30. I took all kinds of risks. And I guess we're wired that way for a reason, maybe. But they do. That was 2 minutes again, huh?
It was quick. So, given that you're one of the few people that is possibly ever qualified to assess another one in your position, how is Cheryl and her family handling?
I think they're doing well enough. They're in the normal range, from what I can see. I contacted Cheryl and I took her to a couple of the groups. I'm not quite sure the groups are working out for her so well. Mm-hmm. And there's one especially I like in Albuquerque, but it's pretty much a full evening's commitment. They say some people lose sleep and some people sleep all the time. And Cheryl seems to be one that sleeps all the time, and that's a normal reaction. And but it also, she just gets exhausted. So going to the group in Albuquerque isn't for her. I guess that's another aside that I just thought of that they told me in one of the groups for anxiety, that crying actually releases all these chemicals in your body that are healing, and jogging and crying release the same chemicals. I didn't know that. I said, whoa, maybe that's why I'm jogging for an hour a day. I just go running and I don't want to stop. Just run and run and run, and that's healing for me. And the avoiding caffeine is supposed to be good too, but I don't take any other drugs, so I have this strong desire for some sort of relief. So I probably do a little too much caffeine. As far as Cheryl goes, I don't know what she's doing besides that. I keep in touch. At the same time, I'm dealing with my own stuff. It's really kind of difficult to keep in touch with somebody every day, but maybe once a week or more, I'll check in with her. It was more often before, and I guess I'm like anybody else. I tend to slack up a little bit, but texting is really a neat thing, because you don't actually have to confront the person, and you can send them a little text and say, I'm thinking of you, or hope. It's a question you want to avoid is the, how are you doing? Because it's pretty obvious to the person how they're doing, and it's Cheryl had a great answer once. Somebody said, how are you doing? And she goes, I'm not doing well, but thank you for asking. And that's the size of it. So it's just, I sent her a text the other day, hope you're coping. Just thinking about you. And when I get those kind of texts, which is extraordinarily rare, even from my brothers, they'll check in every 2 or 3 months maybe. And the funny thing is, when people ask those kind of questions, what they want desperately to hear is, I'm doing okay. And if they hear anything else, it's like, oh no, what do I do now? I understand when Cheryl says she's not doing well, but I think we both understand theoretically that we're both going to get better eventually, because that's the normal course. You adjust. Like I said, you never get over it, but you do adjust. And it seems in that intensity of nightmares and anxiety attacks and just, there's times when my head just blanks out and I feel like I'm drunk, or I just don't know what to say. Sometimes I'm just at a loss of words. But I've always thought that eventually this is going to go away intellectually. Emotionally, it doesn't feel like it. And there's that really strange feeling of just, I don't want to live anymore. I read something in a book that said, that's because, it's not because you don't want to live anymore, you just want the pain to stop, and that seems the easy way to do it. And it will stop eventually. And I think the things I see in Cheryl are the same things I was going through. And she's a year behind me, almost exactly, but a year. But I see her coping, and she's a strong person and has dealt with a lot in her life, a lot of stress, having 5 kids and having to support them by herself, and choosing a very physically and demanding, stressful, emotionally stressful job for 10 years. I've seen her cope really well, and we've both seen a lot on the streets as far as, I mean, it helps me in that I have 18 years of seeing suicides and walking into a house and saying, wow, isn't this strange? What could have led this person to do this? And we've both seen a lot of drug overdoses and seen people at their worst a lot. And I guess that's advantageous. It seems to provide some sort of understanding in a way of what's going on. I certainly do see that my death by my own hand would serve no purpose. It would really at this point, I feel like my family efforts were mostly wasted, but if I kill myself, they're totally wasted. And I have seen what my son's death did to me, and I can imagine what my death would do to people who are close to me, especially my brothers. And life is a pretty strange thing, but I think ending it yourself is even stranger. And I just wish there was some way to get the message across that it's easy to say don't do drugs, and it's pretty easy to forget about it if you're a kid or young adult. What else about Cheryl and how she's coping?
I would say, any message to put out to people who are, looking to the alcohol or the drugs for recreational use, or to cope with something going on in their lives or any of that. Do you have any message for them going after been through what you've been through?
One piece of advice that one parent gave to another grieving parent that I heard in the groups first and then read in a book later was the one asked the other, and she said, you know what, it may seem strange, but what you really need to do is lean into your grief. And at first I thought, that's pretty weird. Lean into your grief, just fully absorb the pain and realize it's there and it's not going away and that you have to deal with it. That's what leaning into your grief means to me. And anybody who's using drugs or any kind of pain reliever, whether it's drugs or sex or thrill-seeking or whatever, all these addictions, I believe addictions are attempts to relieve the pain of life. Whether it's, a lot of it's subconscious, maybe you're abused as a kid or whatever, or you just really don't understand life or something. But I believe all of that stuff is related to relieving the pain and just not dealing with it, not looking at it, not leaning into it and experiencing it. And I think it was C.S. Lewis that said, most people don't want a heavenly father, they want a heavenly grandfather. And what does he mean by that? Oh, well, yeah, most people want this beautiful life where there's all these blessings and gifts coming from some outside source, and it's all going to be hunky-dory and great. Life is good sometimes, and it's very bad sometimes. And we just have to accept that it's not always going to be good. And I think that's, if I was giving advice to somebody, it's just lean into your pain. When the pain comes, lean into it and deal with it. And yeah, I'm saying tough it out and be a man or be a woman and stand up and take it. And I realize now that the intensity of my pain and not knowing what was coming, there was a lot of things that were involuntary, like the panic attacks or anxiety attacks or the nightmares. Yeah, I'm a tough guy. I'm a firefighter. I've learned how to deal with the streets and get up at 3 a.m. and push myself past it and walk over dead people and deal with some of life's most traumatic things and being the tough guy. But that's not what I'm saying, is especially be the tough guy. You got to be tough, but that's not something that comes easy sometimes. As far as doing drugs recreationally, all I can say is good luck. You are dancing on the edge of a cliff. And yeah, I don't understand why young people think they're invulnerable and it's not going to happen to them, and I can drink and drive 80 miles an hour home and it's not going to happen to me. It is a sad, sad thing that it may not. But nobody's invulnerable. You don't have this magic circle of angels protecting you. You may believe that, but I believe in statistics and odds, and it's like playing Russian roulette. Whether you're doing it recreationally or doing it to relieve pain, it's like playing Russian roulette. You may luck out. The odds are 5 out of 6 if it's a 6-shooter that you put into your head, but my son didn't. I don't know why, Joe.
What would you want to start with?
I hadn't thought about it. I really didn't want to think about what to say or what to do. Just to say that the tragedy of losing Andre lately it's been a little harder. I even think about it. I have to focus myself and redirect myself from thinking about the day he died, how it happened, how I was told his best friend was at his house because Andre and Sterling Anderson lived with my friend Tom. And I was dropping Sterling off. His best friend Andrew was at the house, and I've known Andrew, for years. They grew up together. And I asked Andrew, how you doing? He said, well, I'm okay. And I said, what do you mean you're okay? What's wrong? And he said, I think Andre's dead. I said, what do you mean you think he's dead? I think he's dead. He couldn't tell me. And I remember I kept trying to call him all weekend. I was texting him because he had an appointment that he had to go to on Tuesday. And I wanted to make sure that he went to the appointment. I wasn't like him not to respond to me. But there wasn't really anything I could do. Sterling was here. So it wasn't like I could call Sterling and say, where's your brother? And the fact that someone actually stole his phone, I think it's important people know that when they found him, they said his lips were blue. And being a paramedic leads me to believe that he may have not been dead when they found him. They let him die. Because they were afraid. Because they were all high. And the drug dealer, I found out through my nephew because Morgan, who was there with my son, who found him, the drug dealer they call Squish, he wanted to dump my son's body. So they didn't call the police till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, even though they found his body that morning. And that somebody would turn his body over and take his wallet and remove his ID. So the police had no way of identifying him positively. And they took his phone. So the police had no way of contacting me or his family. And to this day, they won't give me his phone, even though his best friend Andrew says he knows who has his phone. They won't give it to me. And you wonder, why do I want his phone? Because I want him. I want his pictures. I want his music. I wanted to tell his friends. And it's hard. It's not just his death. It's the way he died. It was the way he was treated. And when I was at the house, Andrew said there was another girl there, and she said, well, we could take you to him. And I was like, take me to him? How are you going to take me to him? So I thought, well, if he's still at the scene, maybe he's not dead. Maybe they're mistaken. Maybe because he should be in the hospital or in the morgue. Why would he still be there? Maybe he's still alive. So I kept thinking all the way there when they were driving me, maybe it's not him. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe they just thought. And then when I pulled up to the house and I saw the yellow tape, I knew he was dead. And I went running towards the house. And the police stopped me and they wouldn't let me go in the house. And I begged them. I said, please, let me just see him. Let me hold him. Let me just touch him. Before you take him, please, I'm begging you. Because I knew they were going to take him for an autopsy, and I knew what they were going to do to his body. Because I'd gone through OMI as a paramedic, and I know we did an autopsy, and I knew what they were going to do to his body, and I just didn't want him to die alone. I didn't want his soul to leave without me being there. I just wanted to be with my baby, just one last time. And they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me see him. And they cornered me in a room, keeping me from going near him. And then they snuck his body off because I said, I'm not allowing you to do an autopsy. I'm not permitting it. You can't do it. I'm not going to allow it. I want possession of his body. And they took him anyway. And then we had to pay to get his body. So I had to wait 2 more days before I got to see him. And when I did see him, I saw where they had cut his head open and they had cracked his chest. And that's what I want people to know. I want them to know how I got my son back. I want people to see. I had Taylor take pictures because I said, I want people to see this is the reality of a drug overdose. This is what we have to live with for the rest of our lives. This is how I get to see my baby. And I want people to know it's not as simple as them dying and being buried or cremated. There's that in between. There's that aftermath, and that aftermath is not gone when your child dies. Because you remember it for the rest of your life. You wake up with it, you go through the day with it, and you go to bed with it. Knowing that you couldn't save your child. Knowing that your child didn't deserve to die. Knowing that your child shouldn't die. And there's nothing you could do to save them. And that's what I want people to know. And I want them to know what kind of person he was. He wasn't a drug addict. He was just a dumb college. There were just a couple of things that I thought of recently. One was my friends gave me a going away gathering, and
I'm sorry, I forgot.
that's okay. I was just thinking recently, after my friends had a going away gathering, because it was about at least 5 months from the time Andre died, that I couldn't work, couldn't concentrate, had difficulty getting out of the bed, became physically ill. I mean, where I had to be hospitalized, uncontrolled hypertension, and physiological effects manifested themselves in ways that I had to be treated. But my daughter Maya called me one day, and she had offered this before, but she called, I think it was in June, late June, and she said, "Mom, why don't you just move in with me?" And I had been hesitant before because I didn't want to leave until Andre. And Sterling had graduated from college. I thought perhaps Sterling would be okay without me now. And I had kind of started to do too much for him because Andre had died, and the kids said it was detrimental to his well-being because I was babying him too much. So I agreed with her. And it was like something lifted off of me. And I've been able to work since then. And people ask me, are you moving because of the memories of Andre? And it's contrary to that. Everything that he's done here in the house, like doing the wiring for the hot tub, building the Mercado, the Latia Mercado, just everything he did for me just brings me such joy when I think of him. And I think that's why it's so difficult. Because I had no regrets with Andre. Our relationship was loving, always. I never judged my children. I never will. And I always told them, I don't care if you sell hot dogs on the corner. I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be good human beings. That's all. And I used to joke, if you're not in jail and you're not on drugs, life is good. And so my expectations were just for them to be happy, because I know that's a difficult task in this world today. So I never judged them, I just supported them, and if I didn't agree with what they did or believed, then we discussed it. But there was no right or wrong. We just did things together, and he was always there for me, and I was always surprised because he was just so committed to me, and it was amazing. But I decided to just read an email that I sent to my friends when I decided to move, and how I was feeling at the time. And it was, I still can't say very much about the love, for your child never seems to die, so the pain never dies either. There are days and sometimes moments that go by that I want so much, just one last chance, to hold him in my arms, or to smell him, to see his smile, or hear his voice. All I know is that he should not have died. He didn't deserve to die, not him. I don't care what anybody tells me. He wasn't their baby. The first couple of months after Andre died, I would wake up smelling of his scent. Unfortunately, it has stopped. I know I will never be the person I was before he died. There's always a lonely, desperate sadness in me, because his because he isn't here to share our lives anymore. He and only my children give me a reason to go on with my life in hopes of one day hearing his voice or enabling him to live through me. And I know I must be here for the other children's well-being as well. Our lives were never easy, and I just thought maybe God would spare my children any further pain. I've tried to live my life with kindness and a love for life regardless of the situation, and just thought, just maybe, I could see their successes, their families, but not having Andre a phone call away is difficult. I'm trying. I really am. But if it weren't for the other children that I love so much, there really would be no reason to endure such pain. I just love my children so much. They have always given my life a purpose and have made me a better human being. I owe them my life. I realized the other morning why Andre was so special, especially after receiving so many messages from his friend. He made everyone he touched feel worthy of his attention, his love, devotion, and honor to those in his life. I remember one occasion he was sitting watching TV, and I said to him, "You're the son I prayed for." He was just so devoted to me. Everyone always tells me that he was so true and caring. When anyone spoke at his life celebration, they spoke of his spirit and love for life and loyalty to friendship with sincerity. That's how he made me feel worthy to be his mother. I would sit and listen to him when he would take me to dinner or breakfast, thinking he could be anywhere, but he's here with me and full of conversation. I was recently at a 4th of July gathering when I was holding a newborn baby, and her big brother came over to me, put his hand on the baby, and told me, "That's my baby." Well, I can vividly remember Andre at the age of 1 telling people when they approached his baby Sterling, holding his hand across the baby to keep anyone from touching Sterling. In his little gruffy voice, he would say, "That's my baby." I am so blessed to be his mother. The university is going to give him a posthumous degree. I really hope that Andre is able to know this. I'm also moving to Las Vegas with Maya so I can put the house on the market and look for my new home outside of Seattle. I'm really excited. There really isn't any place I can call home anymore. Sterling is going back to Albuquerque to live with Tom and continue to attend UNM. There's no family here, and I don't call Santa Monica home either, as everyone in my family has left there. And then I wrote one other thing. Well, I wanted to read something that my daughter responded to.
About 3 minutes or so.
Okay. This is from Taylor after I sent that email. She said, "Hi, Mom. I woke up this morning at Maya's house, and inside of me I felt a sadness for you. The one thing you told me you could never handle was losing a baby. I'm so aware of how much we are your pride and joy. I tell people my mom said her greatest accomplishment is her children. I thought about bodies this morning and about how Nanny's body is rotting in a box, but Dre's body has released all its magic into the world. But there's still some left in the freed molecules you have at the house. I try to think of how to remember him, how to reach him too, and it is hard. I just say to myself that you don't know how, except for one thing. Every time I wear his sunglasses, I think he's looking through my eyes. He's seeing this beautiful day through my eyes. I'm living my life how I want and as beautifully as I can because he gave me the opportunity to live for him. I let him know that I'm out here in this wild world so that I can share with him the greatness that is living." My friend Michaela was talking about wanting to do something, and I said, "A moment in time can change a life. One decision on a Sunday night by Andre changed the face of the earth for us." I remember that as much as possible, that sometimes one single moment is what matters most. You're a busy lady, and sometimes it's hard to reach you, but you and my friend Sarah are the two people in the world that I constantly think about. How you're doing what you're doing, and how you need to let how I need to let you know what's on my mind. So much of who I am I owe to you. Actually, 100% is owed to you. Thank you, Mom, for giving me life. You're the greatest. Do you know that? That's from his little sister, Taylor. There were hundreds of letters like that from his friends. From his best friend, Gary, that wanted to take his life after Andre died. And he just said that it's because of Andre, because of me, that he would know what to do if we weren't in his life, because his mother and his father died. And he's just happy to still be a part of our life, so that he can be a part of Andre's life through us. And he said, in my heart, I know Andre is looking down on us, as I hope my mom and dad are too.
Now we just stop and restart it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so his best friend Gary wrote in response, I love you, Cheryl, and I don't know what I would do if you weren't in my life. There have been some hard times for both of us, and there will continue to be. I have just been blown away about you and Maya inviting me to her wedding. Maya is Andre's oldest sister, and Andre was supposed to walk her down the aisle September 2nd. That's how special he was. That his sister chose him to walk her down the aisle. And now she's going to walk down alone, because she said that was only for Andre. That only he deserved to be by her side. He said it means a lot to me in my heart. I know Andre is looking down on us. I hope my mom and dad are too. My faith has not yet come back to me. But with Andre, I know there is hope. I'll try to give you a call. I have orientation at UNM, and it is because of Andre that I am attending UNM. It is because of Andre and his faith in me that I'm able to accomplish what I'm accomplishing now. You are the best, and I will always be a call away if you need to talk. I love you. And there are others, but right now I think I want to stop right now.
So, tell me through your eyes who Andre was, your relationship with him. Just go from there.
Okay. I've probably known Andre since he was 12. I met him through his mom, of course, because his mom, Cheryl, is my best, dearest, darling friend. And so I've seen him when he was young. He helped me with my young son, who was 4 at the time, and Andre would always take my son along with him, just kind of grab him by the hand, because I'd always come visit Cheryl. And Andre was kind. He was always kind, a darling boy, always wanting to help everybody and never making you feel uncomfortable. I guess that's the best part about Andre, is he loved everybody. He played hard. Whatever he did it to the max of everything. The way he played hockey, the way he lived, the way he talked. Everything he did, he wanted to do it to the fullest of life. And I suppose the last conversation, second to the last conversation I had with Andre, we had our last Christmas actually all together, but weeks before that, Andre came and he was telling me and his mom and my husband all about his trip to Paris with his sister, and he could not stop talking about how exciting it was and how he wanted to see the entire world, and he never stopped talking. He didn't stop talking for an hour. I said 2 words, like, oh, how exciting, because he was so excited about this whole life thing. He kept saying, I'm never, ever going to die. I'm going to live to the fullest. I have so much life to keep going, and I'm going to meet everybody. And then Christmas came, and he was still the same way. The last picture I have of Andre is at the Christmas dinner table, and he's holding up a knife and a growly face, like he's always going to go on. And that was his way for everything. And funniest guy. He talk about everything, and he's unbelievably brilliant. You would never know. You'd never expect it, because he's so young, and he could tell you about anything, everything, politics, nutrition, everything, sports, anything you need to know. And that was Andre. So.
And let's talk about the tragedy, how you heard about it, your experience through that.
Well, Cheryl and I told her days before. I said, Cheryl, I'm coming to your house on Tuesday, and we're going to meet, and we are going to, we're actually going to have a Bible study. She was shocked that I said that. And she says, okay. I said, we're just going to do that. That's the way it's going to be. And she's okay, I'll be there. You come for that. And so I said, okay. And Tuesday morning came, and I see a message from her, and it said, call me immediately. And I thought, oh, she's just calling to tell me that we're not going to have this. And I expected that. I thought that was okay. So I called her, and she said, Dina? And I said, yes. And she says, Andre, it's Andre. And I said, what's wrong with Andre? And she said, he's dead. And I said, no, he's not. And she said, yes, he is. And she says, you have to come right now. And so I said, okay, I'll be right there. And I live 35 minutes from here, but I just got in my car right away. I know that's what I have to do. And so I just came right in the house and went right into her bedroom, and she's screaming. And so I just went to her, and I just held her as tight as I could. And she just screaming, it's my boy, it's my baby, it's my baby. He's gone. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, you're going to live. You have 4 more babies. You're going to live for these babies. And she says, I know. And she says, he's the one that keeps the family going. He's always funny and laughing. And I said, I know. And there's nothing I could do. Nothing. There was nothing anyone could do or say to give her comfort. I tried to bring her something to eat for breakfast, but that's a silly thing. She can't eat at breakfast. I brought her a banana, crumbled up some nuts, put cherries in there, and she looks at it and said, wow. I thought, it's the only thing I can think of. Give her something healthy, because she'll never eat, but she can't eat. She can't do anything. She can't think. She can't stop crying. She can't stop screaming at everything. And So she got through the first day, and the next morning she called and said, that you're going to have to be with me every single day. You're going to have to call me every single morning to make sure I'm okay. And I said, yes, I know that. I know I'll have to do that, and I will do that. And the next day came along, and the whole family's starting to come in now for Andre's. We're just going to have an open casket, and then he's going to be cremated. So a couple days later, we went for the open casket. And only Cheryl, she's the funniest girl ever. So we come in to see Andre, and I see him, and he's so beautiful. He's the most beautiful boy, and everybody knows that. No one can deny what a handsome boy he was. And he's dressed up in a suit, and she has his watch on him, and she keeps pulling up his arm like this, saying, look, Andre, say hi. And she kept doing that with his arm in the casket. And it made me giggle but cry at the same time. And she just kept saying, look at how beautiful he is. And she's tucking in his tie and saying, that's my boy. And you're seeing your best friend go through this, and you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say. And there's nothing like it. But I know that she needs to talk about it. So that's the most important thing, is that I'm not going to not talk about it with her, because that's how she is dealing with this. And if we don't talk about it with her, she can't live. She can't go on. So we got through that day.
Let's see where we're at here. Got about 4 minutes left. I would say on his siblings, what have you seen? How are they doing as far as the impact? How did they handle it?
Well, Maya is the oldest one, and she was there as soon as I got there also. She came right away from California to be with her mom, and she was cleaning the house like a crazy girl. She couldn't stop cleaning, and I could see that's the only way she can deal with this right now. And while I'm making her mother bananas, she's mopping under my feet where I'm standing, because that's the only way she knows how to do this right now. And but she always has a beautiful smile. She's amazing how she still keeps going through it and standing tall for Mom, and we're going to hold Mom up no matter what. And so I just assume she's still in shock. And but she's still carried on through this whole thing, and always by her mom, constantly by her mom, making sure she's fine. And Sterling, the youngest baby boy, he was sound asleep because he brought Mom home when all this happened, and he couldn't get up that day. And he's always been pretty quiet, sweet boy, that sweet face. He still doesn't talk a lot about it, but he still has a smile on his face. You know he loves his brother, and Mom keeps calling him Andre all the time, and he handles it really well. Sterling just keeps smiling through it all. He lived with his brother. They lived together, and so that's just been devastating. But I see Sterling he's so young and just getting through this. And Jarrett, the oldest boy, he's so sad. He's sad. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to talk with people about it, and I see it in his face, and he's hurting probably more than anybody, I would think, and just wishing it was not this way. I can see that. And Taylor, funny girl Taylor, I haven't got to see her, so I don't know how well she's doing, but Taylor's always got a smile on her face, so I think Taylor's going to do well. It's the boys having the hardest time, I would say.
Okay. I'll take a break.
Okay.
Go ahead. This is effective at everybody in different ways. And for you, your best link through Andre was Cheryl.
Right.
And so her going through this, she has such a vibrant personality. And you've been there for her over the past 6 months or so. And now she's kind of getting things up so she can do what she feels is healthy for her.
Right.
And so through all that, how do you feel?
Well, I'm very sad because she called me and said, I just need to tell you that I'm leaving and I have to go. And I said, well, I don't know that that's a good idea, because then who are you going to be around? And she says, I'm going to make it. And I said, well, but how do you make it without people that you don't know? And she says, well, she just has to get a new life. And so I've been friends with her for 12, 13 years, and we're skating partners. We did everything together, and so now she's just going. And the worst part is it's to Las Vegas, Nevada, where it's really hot, and I hate it. So, and I know I have to go visit her there, and that makes me so sad. But I know that I guess that's just what she has to do. But it makes it really hard for those of us who love her and want her to be around us, because there's nothing we can do except for go visit. And of course there's Facebook, but that's nothing. And going to visit her I'll try to do as much as I can. But how can I see her every week for coffee, for tea, like we always do? How can we skate together? How can I be by her side all the time? How can I come over when she's going to the hospital, because she's been in the hospital so many times since this happened because of migraines and just faint. She just can't deal with this, and so I can't be there with her in the hospital. But I'll just pray that she's doesn't have to keep going, that she's going to be fine, that she's going to heal. But everyone tells us that you don't heal overnight. It takes forever. It takes years and years of healing, and everybody deals with it in a different way. But I at least know for Cheryl, so many people are like her that she has to talk about it. So that's the most important thing, is for those who need to talk about it, you need to be by their side. You need to call all the time. You need to make appointments with them no matter what. And you need to just go to their house. That's what she always tells me, is she won't answer my calls. She won't answer the door. She finally had to give me a key because she can't get up in the morning. And so I do that. I just come into the house and I'm going to wake her up and I'm going to love on her. And that's what we need to do. Other people, they don't know how to talk about it. And so you have to find out what's going to work for each person. But I don't see how you can heal through this. I have my own 16-year-old son, and I can't imagine. There's nothing, if we haven't lost a child, we can't say to them. And especially in this kind of situation where Andre he's a party boy, but not in the party aspect of a drug addict. He's not, nothing about that. He's not an alcoholic, he's not a drug abuser, he's not that. He's a party guy wanting to live life, and so to have it happen the way it did, that's devastating, because he just told us the week before on his birthday that he's gonna live life to the fullest. And just what drugs can do, what alcohol can do, it destroys everybody's lives. That's all I can say. It's not good. There's no reason for it. It's wrecking our entire generation of kids. There's nothing left to give to their children when they've already wrecked their lives with drugs and alcohol. Sometimes there's turning back and healing, but the way it's going now, it's just getting worse. So.
Can you talk more about the physical effects on Cheryl? You said she had been to the hospital a bunch of times.
Yes, I would say it's anxiety attacks that bring on her migraines. She's so stressed. She's so sad. She just can't. She can't process all this, that it really happened. Sometimes I think she really is still in denial and saying, "I just can't. I'm going to see his face. I just think he's going to walk in." And she gets through these things. And then she makes herself sick, and the migraines come on, and then she can't do anything, and she's been in the hospital a couple times for it, and she hasn't been working. She hasn't worked for 6 months. When she finally knows that she's got to pay the bills, she works all night long trying to make this work, trying to make it happen. She calls me finally totally exhausted and crying, "I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I can't go on. I can't work." And I do know it, because her bills aren't getting paid. And that's not good. And when I've actually had to go take care of one of her bills for her, because she just kept letting it build up, because she just kept forgetting to check the mail, check the payments, what needs to be in, because she can't think about that stuff. She can't do those things right now. All she's thinking about is Andre. And she could lose everything. She's not. She's going to make wise decisions now, and it's taken a long time, but she's able to get back to work, but it's 6 months worth of losing so much stuff.
That's devastating.
It is devastating.
Where are we at? About 4.5 minutes or so. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you'd want to speak about.
I just want people to be aware of, first of all, the devastating effects of drugs and partying. Is it really worth it? Honestly, is it worth that? Death. So many friends lost one of the best guys they ever knew. People are devastated all over. Lots of people can't even come and talk about this and do this documentary, and that's devastating for me because he had amazing friends, and they can't talk about it. It's devastated not just only his family's lives, but his stepfather's life. The men who've raised him, it's devastated them. They can't even come and do this. It's changed everybody's lives, and I'm just saying it's not worth it. Just one last party's not worth it. That's all I can say. And when these tragedies happen, don't stay away from that person. Keep trying to comfort them, whatever, even if you just send them something, send them a little bit of food, and a note to say, I care. That's all. I mean, that speaks volumes to these people. They just want to know you care. They want to know that they're not left by themselves to deal with this. You don't even have to talk to them. They just want to know people still love them and care, and that they didn't run away and hide, because that's even more devastating, I would say, is when people stay away. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I suppose, tell me what you knew of Andre.
I met Andre about October of last year. He stopped in the church where I pastor at here in Santa Fe, and immediately had a really neat connection with him. We talked about the outdoors, we talked about sports, things that interested him, about the mountains, and asked him about his schooling and such, and so that's how we initially met, and had a really neat connection, with me being close to 50 and him being, early 20s. It was really neat to have an immediate, connection, although it was brief because of his schedule as a student. We became friends.
Cool deal. And tell me how you know Cheryl.
I met Cheryl, probably July of last year, so maybe a little over a year. Met her at church, and she's had an interest in helping out, doing some volunteer work, primarily with the coffee and espresso machine that we have in our refreshment area at our church. And as most will know, she's just energetic and very giving, and so that's how I came to know Cheryl.
Cool deal. And I suppose explain your involvement and your views on Cheryl during Andre's passing, the whole tragedy.
Oh gosh, when I first found out and heard that Andre had passed and spoke, I believe a day after Andre had passed, I spoke directly with Cheryl, and she was just, as any parent would be with any child, regardless of age, just devastated and grief-stricken, and just had an opportunity not to say a lot, but just to be, to be a source of quiet comfort. And met with the family after another couple of days, as the arrangements for Andre's memorial service was being planned, and got to meet some of the other children, and again had a really neat connection with them under the extreme circumstances. It was neat to see the close-knit, tightness of the family, and so that's how I was involved in just the aspect of my role as a spiritual leader in Cheryl's life, and then had an opportunity to get to know some of the other family members over the course of the next few days afterwards.
Okay. Cheryl had spoken with you about, speaking about the
Yeah.
spiritual nature of all this. Would you like to just...
Sure, yeah. Reading some statistics about people 30 years and younger in our culture, in America, deeply spiritual mindset, and yet we see in our culture, in our society, a lot of unanswered questions with respect to issues of faith, and yet, as a minister, I challenge people to be objective with issues of faith, and faith has to have a specific object. The chair that I'm sitting in, I didn't test it to see if it was going to support my weight, and naturally I just sat in it. And so I had an element of faith with everything that I do throughout my day. But that's not the type of faith that I would like to present to anybody who would be listening. What I like to do is just present the idea of faith as the object of a person's faith in a creator God who knows us. We're not just biological and organic beings walking this planet. I firmly believe that as an individual, I am culpable to my Creator, and therefore I'm not autonomous. None of us are. And by that I mean that we are responsible for the things that happen in respect to how we treat one another, how we engage our lives. The choices that we make affect us. The choices that I make as a husband and a father affect many people in my own home. And so therefore autonomy, I think, is attractive in our culture, but I think it can be a distraction in that autonomy leads to, I believe, an indifference to spiritual matters. And so when I say that faith has to have an object, I believe that object is God. I believe, and obviously I have a bias as a Christian minister, that my Creator is the Creator that's represented through the Scriptures in the Holy Bible with respect to Old Testament, New Testament, and He is very much aware of everything about me and in every aspect of who I am. But He's also very much aware of every one of us. And so the object of faith has to begin with who a person has faith in. And so as a person has faith in God, there therefore has to, maybe as a logical turn of thought and conclusion, who am I? If God exists, then who am I? I know that by my nature and my choice, I am imperfect. I have imperfect thoughts. I have imperfect attitudes and actions. And yet, I will be responsible for those things. And so I need to recognize that myself as a person of faith, I need to recognize that I have, therefore, the opportunity to have a relationship with God. And that relationship is very real and very tangible. It's not esoteric. It's not just trying to grasp water with my hand. It actually is practical and tangible. And that comes through the reality of what I believe God initiating relationship with me through the person of Jesus Christ, who was a historical figure in our society, who was demonstrated to be a compassionate, loving individual, but yet he made radical statements. He said things that were extreme. He mentioned that he was the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can have eternal life except through him. And so therefore, I desire to have a relationship with him, and I desire others to have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. Because it just didn't end there with Jesus making strong comments. He went a step further to demonstrate his love for mankind, knowing full well that my imperfection or my sin needed to be dealt with, and the scriptures are very clear in that there are prices or a wage to pay for sin, and sin is just basically a rebellion towards God, directly, indirectly. Christ said these words. He said, "Out of the abundance of the heart proceed harmful things, murder, hatred, adultery, etc., slander, gossip." And so there are actions that come as a result of the contents of my heart. And so therefore I need a Savior, and that's what Jesus demonstrated when he went to the cross to pay for my sins and the sins of the world. And now I have a great opportunity to respond to that. And that response is through faith. And I guess this is where we go back to the idea of faith, and that faith is a strong belief, a strong commitment. Basically, it's trusting and committing to the person of Christ with everything that I have, with everything that I believe in, because knowing that I can't atone for, I can't pay for my own wrongdoings, I can't do enough good to cancel out the bad in my own life. And so therefore I need to have a type of faith that's the type of faith that would be a skydiver jumping out of an airplane has faith in his parachute. And so therefore I would encourage people to have an objective attitude and investigation in this person of Christ.
Great.
Anyhow,
Do you want to take a break?
you know what? Whatever you want, need, or whatever. And obviously, you'll edit these things.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was just thinking if we could talk real quick about when you were talking about autonomy and the I guess that is. Go ahead.
you know, as we can be attracted to autonomy and being maybe even isolated, in a college dorm room or even in a town, a large city, it's easy to become distracted with many things, with relationships, with goals, and there's nothing wrong with relationships and goals, but the idea that oftentimes autonomy is hidden and individualized and not spoken of. We can mask those types of things, and therefore it becomes it's dangerous. It becomes a threat to an individual, because again, there is a connectedness that people have. We're social beings. We need one another, and therefore, needing one another, we need to have relationship. And so, as opposed to entertaining autonomy, people need to value relationship. People need to value community. People need to value sharing, kind of the things that we learn in kindergarten. To play fair, to be respectful, to be kind, to be compassionate. And when that is cultivated, autonomy takes a lesser effect on the human heart.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's got
Yeah,
warm.
let's go on. So,
Doesn't seem like it is first, but
Yeah.
man, I tell you what. So I guess, Andre.
He was obviously he's my brother, but he was a super good friend. He's always someone that would be there for you. It's kind of stereotypical to say that, but he really was someone that would always be there, especially for me, just being his younger brother. And he definitely was probably one of the funnest people I've ever known, and just fun to be around. I can't believe all the energy he always had and stuff like that. It's a lot. I would say he's a lot maybe funner person than even I am. But yeah, he was an awesome person. One of my favorite people, definitely.
Your mom said that he always had a real time force in the family, bringing everybody together.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, he definitely did. He definitely was able to bring everyone together because he just, I don't know, everyone was just happy to be around him. And so maybe I think, compared to my other brothers and sisters, they would always be happy to see him. And like some of us don't always get along all the time, but everybody got along with Andre all the time, pretty much. Every once in a while, there'd be some problems, but besides that, no. Everyone got along with him, I think, just because he definitely was a positive person, not negative at all, not pessimistic at all. Yeah.
Mom said he was real active outdoors, real active in school.
Yeah, he was surprisingly good at school, despite like all the stuff he did, just with partying, and also just a lot of dirt bike riding and snowboarding and stuff like that. Like I do all the same things, and I do all right at school. But he actually did. He had a lot harder class than I did, and he still did better than I did, which I don't know how he did that. Just pulled through. But he loved doing anything outside, riding, dirt bikes all the time, snowboarding. He's probably going on snowboarding trips, once every couple of weeks, and then I don't know, just hanging out with friends, normal young people stuff.
Cool deal. Now, your mom says that I think you were with her the day it happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to take us through that?
Alright, yeah, it definitely was the worst day of my life, obviously. And it's and I hope it'll be the worst day of my life for like the rest of my life, because it was hard. It was super hard. And not just him, what happened to him, just having to deal with my mom and see my mom go through it was rough. That was rougher than anything, really. I think that seeing her that upset was, affecting me a lot more than what actually happened to him. And seeing, how it affected everybody else affected me more than it actually happened to him. I'm surprised. It seems like we're all doing all right. I'm surprised my mom, she seems to be doing pretty good, which is surprising because at first I didn't know what she was going to do, but she pulled through, I think, for us, for all of the rest of us kids. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but she seems like she's doing all right.
Cool deal. During the day when your mom was having that hard time, what was that whole viewpoint? And I apologize for asking about that.
Oh, no, that's fine. Wait, say it again, sorry.
So, talk to me from your viewpoint, how was your mom, it's a silly thing to ask, how was your mom taking it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the proper way to say this. Who was your mom at that point?
Alright, let's see how she takes. She definitely, I feel like she was very felt similar to me, that she felt kind of like empty. She felt like obviously she didn't seem like herself, she was just kind of like a ghost of who she was. She was just, after it happened, she was just making stuff work. I know she was having a very rough time. And it's kind of weird, I know, like I said, I know she's feeling the same way, but when you lose someone, it's not necessarily like the direct effect it felt, like how it felt. It's just knowing that, I think the thought of like her, especially like thinking that, knowing that she's not gonna be able to see him again, or do just hang out there or just anything, see him again. I think that really affected her. So she was really she was empty. I can't think of a better word than empty. She just seemed hollow and just, I don't even know. Like, I don't think she even showed how she felt really. I think she just had a mask on and was just kind of, you know, blocking from everyone else. But I don't know. She wasn't herself. She's getting it back now, but I mean, I kind of honestly don't think she'll ever be the same. I think that she'll be able to be happy again, of course, but maybe not the same level as when she was with Andre, especially. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Okay. Did she talk to you at all about what she wanted you to talk about?
No, actually, no. I actually is I wasn't really happy about doing this because I just didn't. I don't know. Really, not just with you, but just I didn't feel comfortable talking about it at all. I already talked about it so much that I kind of how I'm doing that. I'm getting over it,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of feel like bringing it up over and over and over and over again is not really helping at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but no, yeah, she didn't. She I don't know. She just kind of. She didn't really explain. She just wanted to say how I felt. I could tell how I felt, and I feel bad, obviously. But like I said, getting better, and we'll see if I can be like you're definitely not like the same level of happiness like my mom. Like we're not the same level of happiness as we were before. Like we are happy, but it's still like not 100%. And I'm just hoping that one day I'll be able to be 100% good again.
Cool deal.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting down.
Yeah. Awesome. Quick. Super awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
And it is very freaking hot here.
Yeah.
Yes.
It gets real warm real quick.
I don't know what the freaking remote is. And she should, if she's not already back, she should be back in 1 second.
Hold up.